Jean Boghossian,
Marie Khouri?
nice to be with you again.
Yes.
Marie, tell me a little bit about your work.
Well, the body of work that I brought to Cairo is Arabic calligraphy. So it's a body of work that I created 10 years ago. And the first sentence was, let's sit and talk. دعونا نجلس ونتحدث. And you being Lebanese like I am, you understand the context of what I was meaning. It was a reflection a little bit on the situation in the Middle East and what we have lived for the past 50 years. And funny enough, it became even realistic in nowadays in the sense of communications where everybody is hanging to their phones and their computers and nobody ever takes time to sit and ponder and think. Now, after that, I created I Love to bring to Cairo, which was acquired by the Vancouver Museum, and that lent it, allowed me to bring it here. And I feel that I made a full circle in my life because I was a translator, interpreter. I studied linguistics, and to be able to do that with my art, to bring back the language installation to Cairo, where I was born, was an extraordinary experience. Now, Jean, your waves.
The waves. I created the waves and I named it the desert waves because, of course, of Egypt. And I was also honored to be invited by Art d'Egypte and to be present by the pyramids. I knew the pyramids when I was 18 years old, when my father offered me a trip to Egypt because I got my baccalaureate. And the pyramids has fascinated me. And along the years I grew up, always pyramids was something. I came a few times to Egypt, and it's a heritage of civilization and the world. It does not belong only to Egypt. It's the most ancient heritage that the world has, in the sense that it's also not only in the ground, but it's built and it stays and lasted. So being invited to Art d'Egypte, I wanted to make something that exists next to the pyramids. And this is why I created desert waves with the material, which is curtain steel, which looks very much fitting in the desert and the sand. They're brown.
It really
color.
does.
So
I saw it today.
Going
yes.
with the sand. And at the same time, it is the curves of the waves going with the strictness of the pyramids, where it's got contrast, but at the same time, it's a kind of harmony. And my waves are the waves of culture, because of sculpture, but because also culture, as I believe in culture, which unites the world, not politics, not religion, not identities. So these waves are, if you look at them a little bit closely, you will realize I call some waves the waves of calligraphy, the wave of music, because there is some music notes, the wave of poetry, the waves of literature. And you see all this in the desert waves. Also, the metal plates look like papyrus because they are curved. At the same time, they have the edges that is a little bit yes.
Yes.
And so and also I work with fire, and this is worked with fire to have these edges that the metal melts and give this kind of writing. And so I believe in culture, and I call them the waves of the culture, not the waves of violence, because we know violence, we know where we are today. So tell me about you now.
Well, I've seen your work, and it's true that it's really befitted to the site and the reflection that it has with the pyramids and the thought of the desert that you are within. Now, I have a question for you. How did you feel about the group that we are and how we have all sort of interpreted. I felt very humbled for being in such a site. I felt that the pyramids were really overwhelming. And I was really worried that the work would not withstand the presence of the pyramids. Um, and I was surprised that when we opened the crates and installed, that it had a good play onto what the pyramids reflected. And I find that all of us have had, each one of us, an interpretation of our work that's adapted within that site. What was your feel about everybody else? How did you feel about being englobed in such a disparity of different works and different concepts that are reflected about the site?
I felt it was a fantastic interaction between all the works. I had a chance to go to the left, never had a chance to go to the right. And I saw your work from far, but I couldn't make it
Get to
because
the place.
yesterday I was able to make 1.5 hours going and coming
Yes,
back.
I know.
But then we were stuck with so many things. So I
Yes.
saw from far. But I know the word love is very important. With the word, there is other things that joins with love, with peace, with dialogue, with tolerance, and with, there is things that come ethics and of course not violence.
Yes.
And so love can, of course, solve many problems.
Transcend.
Transcend.
Yes.
Art is the most important medium where you can communicate and where you can create dialogue without having wars or having the
Yes.
problem that we have.
And I find actually that through art, we have difficult discussions and sometimes differences that we manage to overcome with our profession. I created this body of work that I was explaining about 10 years ago, and I was faced with presenting it in the US and in Canada to people that don't speak Arabic. So they didn't understand what the forms meant. For them, they were sculptures and seats, but they were very engaged with what the message was and where I was going. And so for me to be able to bring it to a country that understands and reads it, it was ever so more meaningful. And it's my first stop in the Middle East. So
Arabic calligraphy is an art in itself. And so you managed to make it in a contemporary way where you created this
exactly
three letters in a beautiful setting.
Yeah, in three-dimensional. But at the time of the pharaohs, they drew to create their language. Their language was drawings of birds, of phoenixes, or whatever, and each meant something. And taken by the drawing, I brought sculpture to describe what Arabic calligraphy is today. So I wouldn't say it would be too pretentious to say it's a response to that, but it's an ongoing growth. And I've interpreted these sculptures in modern Arabic calligraphy that exists today, and hopefully that will exist for the future generations that will be able to see it and to assess.
So I'm answering your first question, which was what was the left side?
Yes.
And I love what I have seen because in the sense you have various nationalities who have presented various works that are more contemporary or less contemporary, playing with the light, playing the night, and playing with the reflections of the sun.
Yes.
Each one is a work in itself that stands in front of the pyramids. Of course, in all humility, we cannot compete with the pyramids.
No.
But we have the chance to be next to the pyramids and to be seen next to the pyramids with the pyramids. And this is once in a lifetime.
Unique.
And so I think we're very blessed.
We're very blessed. And at the same time, I feel that us as artists, we are today a reflection of society. So it's very interesting to see how every one of the 12 artists at its present responded to that. So some were very metaphysical, some were mathematicians, some were very abstract words, some I am more with my hands. My work is about sculpture. Yours follows the flow of your concepts that you've created. And so it's interesting to see that coming from all walks of life and from our experiences and our life and our education, we each interpreted our own work in our own language.
So my language is the language of fire since 15 years. And I use fire on my paintings, on my sculptures. And of course, this work that you see here is a work that has been done with a chalumeau that is melting the edges. And it's a long work. And also it's the part of the beauty that brings the language on and the calligraphy and all what you can see in these metal works. The language of fire is playing with hazard and at the same time, containing hazard with the will of the artist. Fire is a media that destroys. And we see the wars today. We see what's happening in the world through fire. And I decided that I'm going to use fire to construct and not to destroy. And what I do, like even in my books, which I call phoenixes, because I burn them, but not to destroy, not because of the auto-da-fe of the Germans that were burning the culture. I burn because books are losing their importance, but at the same time, I sublimate them to turn them into artworks, which you can live with as a sculpture. And of course, I try to resin them so that they don't become soft or they're not destroyed. You also work with fire.
I do. I work with charcoal.
Charcoal. And you use it also on your paintings, on your other media.
Yes, so I create panels that are geographical sightings of areas that have been very close to me and that somehow have disappeared into dust and are in a critical situation today. So, yes,
I work with smoke, I work with burn, and it hurts. And sometimes I burn my hands, and sometimes I burn the painting totally. And I missed burning my studio one time, and I had to throw the painting out because I'm taking too much risk. So art for me is something that where I can express myself.
It's visceral.
It's visceral. But when I discovered fire, got stuck to it. And it's like
Why do you think that is? Why do you think that fire spoke to you?
I say that fire has chosen me to reveal it because no other artist has revealed it the way I am revealing it. And I can write with fire, I can paint with fire, I can create a sculpture with fire, and also I can use fire as a media. Where I think fire has chosen me because fire is destroying the world. And fire needs to be used in art and not in anything else.
But at the same time, fire can be comforting when it's in a fireplace.
Yeah,
it can be warm and animate.
The beauty of fire is to look at the flame and the smoke and
have it speak to us, right, in a way. So I think you're playing with fire in the sense that you like to play with danger.
I like to play with danger
and extremities.
And at the same time, I try to do something good with it. I try to give a message maybe to the world that fire is not to destroy other people, but to make art with it. And I think if everybody did art with fire, we would not have these wars that we are having today.
You know, it's funny because you and I are from Lebanon in a way, and we've lived Lebanon, and we seem to come to the same conclusion in different ways, each one of us in their own language. Let's sit and talk, which was a conversation with what was happening in the Middle East. And I sold it all in Canada, funny enough, which has no connotation with the Middle East and who can't speak Arabic. But somehow the message and the sculpture forms spoke to them and they relayed with that. So I think that if we have the intention, if we have the beauty, and if we have the hard labor that we put in our works, we can transcend cultures and we can communicate.
And fire transcends, it makes you transcend the upper level of art. And I want to say something that we had in Brussels, an exhibition called Art is the Answer, because all Lebanese artists came and exhibited in our foundation in Brussels. And art is the answer because we realized that all other languages are reaching wars and are reaching destruction. If we discuss about politics, we fight. If we discuss about borders, we fight. If we discuss about religion, we also fight. And if we discuss what can we talk where we disagree, but we don't need to fight. It's only art. Because we can disagree on one art, but we can still go and have a drink together and then sleep well. Thank you, Mary.
Yeah, and thank you, Art of Egypt, for joining
you.
us. You
Thank
know,
you,
it's
Arab
been a
Egypt,
great experience.
who is inviting us for this.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.